Jebe sonam je rola penje sanje roba sho sanje chudang soje chunam la chanchu pardo dani japso je dage jinso jebe sonam rola penje sanje roba sho donye ninje zongdong jube nam tenje sense kanje ten chugen chanda bembo ten ten ja 소원대 소 신전전로 요 ramjam 송로 권나 따위 메께선 터벌을 두배 중 제베 주베 타전 선보이 선제 신이 남다 차차 오 in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain Buddhahood for all the sentient beings. That's all. Oh, that's all. We should, I think, the verse number 10, we finished, but please remember how Shantideva has used this technique of meditation, how to use this method to calm yourself, because I think it's kind of like guarding your mind. Guarding your mind, what kind of mind you want to guard is the peace, the calmness, the time that you can differentiate between good and bad, not influenced by the anger, not influenced by the attachment. The moment that you are in the middle, for that reason, that enjoyment, because enjoyment mindset, how they translate that? Joyful mind. Okay, joyful mind.
Maybe relaxed and joyful mind.
Okay.
So it's like relaxed and joyful mind.
Relaxed and joyful mind. So at that time, when you use this verse, it will your heart will go with it. So once you are not in the mood of that kind of a joyful mood, then even you are angry, even you are in an attachment mode, if you use this technique, it won't work. You are not. You might say, yes, I agree, this technique is very helpful, this is great, but I'm not ready for it. So that's for sure. For that, when you are in the middle, before you have experienced anger, attachment, now you feel like this anger and attachment is coming close enough to you, then this is the right moment to guard your the mind, which is the joyful mind, because at that time you can make the judgment. Judgment.
Yeah.
Did this one? Then now, that question. So, 계산 참대 관례를 아주 줍시를 왜? The verse number 14.
Yeah, verse 14.
14. Did you see? That is verse number 12. Kelsey, can you read that again, please?
The causes of happiness sometimes occur, but the causes for suffering are frequent. Without suffering, there is no renunciation. Therefore, mind, you should stand firm.
So, if you really wanted to practice Dharma, if you really wanted to, I love this English word, overcome. But in a Tibetan, we don't have that word directly, I think. Overcome, how do you translate it? Simon, how do you translate that into Tibetan?
Jomba.
Yeah?
Jomba.
Jomba.
Jomden days and Jomba. Jomba.
In English, overcome is deal with, to deal with and to take over on this, right? Something did where?
You also can mean that sense of vanquishing or having victory over. It can have both meanings in English.
Did it. Something dealing with it, then you gain the victory after. So that's more like overcoming. Yeah. So if we translate that in the Tibetan, then it's more like a tarpa or liberation, but it's a long way. Liberation is a long way to go, but here what we need is time to time we need to experience that. So once you are like today, if you achieve something, you should have the enjoyment. Like, yes, today the anger, I have overcome my anger. So there you go. So you have this strong. Now, it's a good pride actually that we need. So as Buddha already said, when the practitioner does not have a positive pride or proud, then that person cannot achieve the path. So for that reason, we need to have the something encouragement, and then a kind of the proud, not the
not pride itself, but yeah, pride itself. Yeah, confidence. Things are
that's better. The confidence. Yeah. Now for that reason, we have to so Simon, can you are you ready for me?
My power's just gone out.
Oh.
But I it's okay, no problem.
So how long can you?
I'm all right. I'm good now. Yeah, I'm good.
Are you good? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we always pray for you, eh?
Thank you.
Okay, is that your?
That's the backup.
Okay. Okay, that's good. 제가 디지기 송다. 단다디 란조 서발이야 남자 준도 안에데 야와 망보지 예베 체베 나로네 동연 당랭기 서봐. 봐. 아니 철은 예심기 서봐. 아니 네발라 재미님비 서바스 제 서바 숨송도 봐. 다디 네바 숨 디네 가서 디 서바 숨디 송비갑리야 단다 대조데 동에 당랭기 서바디 송도 봐. 동해 당도 랭구레스 동해 당도 말렘발라 아니 아주 니중직 말레스 가전스나 동해디 다 인직 식데 딱다 지그레 동해라 오버컴 체디 아주 니중기 된 차디기 요레스 들어봐 제상가 겐 충중데 망보지 안절로 용그리 이나양 겐데 되죠 마곰바르 안 아주 겐 첨부 되죠 간에 첨부 되죠 도도 말이죠 제장가 완전 남샤 균도 지금 초배나를 내가 제배이네래 알아봐 아니 낭민나로를 대비갑려지 아니 소소 가보다 냐보 냠도 유네래 되죠 상말로 냠도 지금 튀마 통인당 참마 참기니 주망보 중배갑라 람상 샘든 나로래야 다 달린 고급되고 싶지라서스 당 얘기 아래 냠네 제비디 가즈지기다 야지로 도면도 따사드 디간르스다 다 디삼로 땅에 딩아 빽해져 버려도 아주 레탕 보여줘라
Within there are three categories. There are many kinds of practices which are included within the practice of patience. There's the being able to withstand or bear suffering. There's the when we're engaged in Dharma practices, being able to abide in difficulties, to withstand difficulties when we're engaged in Dharma practice. And there's the suffering of sambadigi. Not respond. There's the practice of not responding to harm. So there's all kinds of different sort of practices which are included within patience. The one we're talking about here is the practice of being able to take on suffering and deal with suffering, or when to take on or be able to deal with suffering. And here, the definition of liberation itself, or nechung, the kind of the nechung rube, nechung tarbade. Renunciation, yeah. So the whole idea of renunciation is for us to be able to withstand and overcome suffering. So it's kind of built into the sense of the path. And if there are always going to be many in our lives, in our practice, there are always going to be many sort of small uncooperative or difficult conditions. But if we focus too much on those and are not able instead to be able to overcome or to get through smaller conditions, then this will cause us a great amount of suffering. So whether we're in the environment of our society, our family, or those loved ones, those who are close to us, and we can see where our practice is when we look in terms of these environments, because whether we're in concord and in agreement and have good relationships with all of these people or not, and this is how we know whether we have how our practice of patience is. For us as beginners, this is how we know where our practice of patience is, when we look in relation to these kind of society, general society, family, and those who are close to us. This is how we know where our practice of patience is.
대화 능력주마도 연구 말에 망치 동해 연구를 가진스나 동해 유마 루자요레스 대외 균이 랑가총 동해 균이 신도망스 그봐 이 인도점비 개왕아말림비나야 동해 용약이 규디 먼저 마 사셔요레 대화 용약이 규디 뉴아 사셔요 이 인도 먼저 단다 디 줄이야 규다 주분이라 매나 민중기 대화 세주바 먼저 지금에는 지금 용하지. 디근 저와디 레야 오늘 이제니지. 당아주 대바제체. 봐. 딜레 대바제체 다 동해네 바 타레스 케민도스. 동해네 바 유에 케민도스. 유로야. 봐. 다 동해로 오버컴 체고도스. 디 인도점베 땅에게 동해 남에 나서 간데 중거 있나요? 얘 동해는 갑자기 쫙 삼삼치. 다 담전하는 담전디 단다 동네 당행이 쇠바세야 될라 또 담자 약속이 단내송이 동네 간대의 정보에는 얘기 톱내래 뭐 톱내래 갑대지다 자다 자스면 상로고 그랬어.
So in the first two lines of the 12th verse, where it states that the causes of happiness are few and the causes of suffering are many. So we have to when we think about it, so we're not only in this life, we're accumulating causes, mostly causes for suffering and not so many causes for happiness. But also, if we look back into our past lives, then we will have accumulated many more causes for suffering than we will for causes for happiness. So therefore, it's no surprise that then when we think about, the law of cause, if we can develop strong faith, a trusting faith in the law of cause and effect, and very specifically that if you don't create the causes for something, then the results will not arise. But if you create the causes for things, then the results are, there's much more likely. So it's not really surprising that we find ourselves in a condition of suffering. So there's no way to throw it out. There's no way to throw it away to get rid of this. We can't just walk away from or get away from the suffering just like that. So we need to kind of stand in front of it. We need to make we need to think, well, so therefore I have to overcome this suffering. And we make a kind of promise. Of course, it'll be very difficult for us to completely completely overcome, in the sense of deal with or take on all of our sufferings, but so we make a kind of promise that as much as I am able to, as much suffering as I'm able to overcome and deal with, may I overcome and deal with that much suffering. So we make a kind of promise to ourselves like that. That would be the kind of promise to ourselves in regard to patience and suffering.
And then I think one way of saying in a Tibetan, also we can say that in English, why not? The negative actions does not have any good qualities. But one good quality, if we can think of that, is that we can seize it. Seize it.
It can be ceased, yeah. Or
it can be seized.
To an end. You can bring it to an end.
Yeah, you can bring it to end. For same thing, when somehow when we are going through for like the anger, we think so there it leads into so much suffering. So for that reason, it will be very good if you think for long term, this anger, how much it will destroy my virtue. Not only virtues we cannot measure, and we can think because we don't have much belief in the cause and the effect. And then if you don't have much belief in the cause and effect, then let's forget about merit for a moment here. So here our more focus will be, we will lose so many things. The relation with your friends. Also, if there are some chances that we can rebuild the relation with someone, but it will break it again and again. So all this, and then most important thing is, it will harm yourself. It's not only harming others. It will harm yourself. If it's more like you have a fight with others, if you can make others unhappy, and then whole day you can be very in a happy mood, then if you don't believe in a cause and effect much, then there is a victory for you. Okay, but I think I won't meet a person who will say, today I had a great fight and yes, I did it. But anyway, if it is like more competing with fighting, that there would be, but the result of the ugliness, I think we will not enjoy that. Most people will say, I had to do that, but I am very sorry I have done this. So most people will say that like this. So before having this, if the regret is true, then why, if it is out of control, then it is very important to think when you have the control in your hand. So something what Shantideva said earlier. And then the most reason is one of the most excuses is I know the benefits. I don't want to go into this situation, the anger situation, and I don't want to bring a fight with others. I know the consequences, but I can't really bring the patients in because it's so difficult. If it is the reason, then Shantideva, I love the Shantideva's way of bringing the logic in here, saying we do so many things which is very difficult. In the samsara field, we do so many bad things, even it's difficult. We do so many good things, even it's very difficult. And then will you say that I won't do it because it's difficult? So that's the verse number 13. We don't need to read that. And then it leads to the verse number 14. So this today we're going to read that. So Kelsey, can you read the number 14, please?
There is nothing whatsoever that is not made easier through acquaintance. So through becoming acquainted with small harms, I should learn to patiently accept greater harms.
This is great. I think I need your help here, Simon. Never that did it. Digi nalola. Since don't come to come to our imbis, Kona Dinalola Dindichitu and Gezerum chicken, Java Nalolia. Sim Zindang Tamji is a combat Zawachin imbis. Sim Eugene Yule Juba the status Kodam Digido. Eugene Yule Juba che, 10 year time this with that. There's quarter of Gamma. Eugene the Yula any Tobu Juya Jurba. Jubal Chebedi any combat Zawal den Chumbaris. Zawadi, Kumbal den Chumbaris.
So the way in which so there's some in relation to the 14th verse here, there's some words in Gyaltsab Dharma-Rinpoche's commentary on Shantideva, where he talks about how the he talks about the way that he talks about how the way that the subject and the subject or the mind, the subjective mind, engages with his objects and can engages often very quickly with its objects is rooted in our habits and familiarity, things which we're familiar in the habits which we have. It's habitually, it's based in our habitual in our habits.
Tadi kom se di tangaranzo gi di nenga chibu shibi chagiyor kachensana gom gyayagi jumzen zowdi manzo gom gyayagi jumzen zowdi komyak chidoro ba komyak chidoro chezanga gom di gyuri kompa di dibur ba gyudo dibu char ba di yindu tangaranzo ki semna loli ya kadu yine chöbaji 가르래 왔으나 깔레 가고도 때 이나야 레라부 차이 요리 고셈 디소나 레라부 차브리스 되는 병아도 가지고 있는 거 봐.
So when we when we talk about sort of meditation, actually what we talk about meditation in relation to developing kind of habits or familiarity, let's say familiarity with things. So actually you can say that the meditation is a kind of cause, and the familiarity with a subject or with some kind of subject material is the familiarity is the kind of result of that. There's a relationship between us meditating on something and then cultivating familiarity with it. So there'll be then you may arise the question, well, it's difficult to do, but through meditation or familiarity, cultivation, things get easier. So although we can say that things can be difficult to do, but still they get easier with familiarity.
다 chanju seminary tab namden nalola tanda gomba yina gom gyaba yina an gomba tibyo yoba gomba tebeati ani ngaranzo chadam monsumla ngazo gomdeyor ndwa ngazo la suchigi kran ta ni chakba jedan labgo se ni suji yomare ni kondo jedan labgo se ni suji yomare jwa ta dejo changmallo gomchi le버리스 ting ngazo gom gyabo yomar gomdeyor스 jwa ta ngazo la gom goyadi kare gom goyadi kare reslamna 다 닝지다 서바단 누구 공부했어 다 더가디 가르에서 아니 로랑 나랑 슉슉이 깔래지 안 먹어보나 나가 슉슉이 레버지 용토그룹 해서 다 집어디 거고요 아주 다들이 줍저디 땅 아주 상 얘기를 해서 집어디 먹을지 전주 선배 차기로 해서 집어디 거고 말에 당당 아주 집어 가르에서나 공부 있나 가지고 공부를 했어 아주 틀다 집어디 거고요 디기 answer dela kyawa chima gugu yo mare kyawa thagara nga jo lengyap thu yo ta
Okay, so in Pramanavartaka, Dhammakirti mentions this relationship between meditating on something and then developing, meditating or cultivating something and then developing familiarity. Now, in terms of things like attachment and anger, I don't need to advise you or give you instructions on how to give rise to anger and attachment. We are completely habituated or familiar with these things in our mind. What is it that we need to cultivate, to meditate on, and create familiarity with? We need to do this in relation to things like compassion and patience and this kind of thing. So a doubt will come up in us. Can these things not come naturally? And what, putting aside whether we're talking about attaining the completely enlightened state or becoming a bodhisattva, putting all those things aside, the question may be more like, how much do we have to cultivate them? How much do we have to meditate on them? And in thinking about this question, we should think about this question not in relation to future lives, but here in this very life. We should think about how much. The question arises: how much do we need to meditate on and cultivate these things in relation to this life? We need to bring it down to this life.
For that reason, to cultivate, to develop, to generate bodhicitta and compassion, or for patience, any kind of positive minds, that our mind should always ask the question to ourselves is, 겁나 탐에도 필기를 필기 말했어.
So if you cultivate it, or you meditate on it, or you cultivate it, if you cultivate it, can it increase limitlessly or not? That's the question you need to ask. Can it limitlessly increase or not?
Limitlessly.
Does the increase in the limitless? Yeah. Does it have a limit or not?
Okay. For us, we are so familiar with the anger, attachment. The reason is nobody needs to teach us. Okay. But still anger attachment is not quite increased, but it is tamed peva maris.
It doesn't increase limitlessly.
Limitlessly.
It cannot increase limitlessly.
So the question to you all, do you agree agree or not? So did you get the question? If you get the question, I'm waiting for the answer. Just kidding. So this is a very big question actually. This is such an incredible question. Without that, if you can answer it, whatever practices you are doing, you are just following the tradition. Your teacher says, do it. We say in a Tibetan, lasso. In English, say, of course, I will obey you. I will be loyal to you. That's not enough.
Rinpoche, maybe could we some people are saying, could we clarify? We should clarify the question. Make sure that people understand the question.
Okay. Yeah. The question, I think in English, Simon will be, he will give you the better version of the question. Right? 개체슈디 아란조 차 베나 콘도선도지나 통함에반에 곰디요. 아주 곰갸비요. 제장거 곰버리. 그래 곰갸에 때 다른 거 상황 아주 잡고. 곰갸다는 가르스나 베나 콘도사도 잠베 되네 칼라사 도구면도 이 구도구면도 딱 상무당당면 되고 봐. 좀생 꺄냐 상무당데 봐. 되게 고단이 고면도 칼라사 도구면도 아니 지로라 드디 코통보다 남선 셈나는 뭐지 책도스. 데리기도 와. 디 콘도 곰구이베다래. 다 곰베다데 마음발라 겐 충중지 쳐보다 남상으로 사셔줘도 와. 디 곰베다 봐. 다디 겨와 통만 매번에 아주 디 곰디요레스. 아주 단주기 단다 창주고 셈도 닝지당 다 지기 셈 상보도 도 시제 곰도 시제 애냐 타면도 패야지. 주마 마음발이야. 마음발라 아니 지기 창주 닝지스도 탁 스케요야지. 겐 충중지 통보다 변화 동의 충중지 통보다 상신기 셈나는 닝지 전부 깨트야. 다 충중들이 말다야. 전부도 저 깨트야지. 다디 ngārgi dōchā chetāng kyepa nā shīn kyes che tēne yāng shī yāng tāme dō pēyā mē bātī rī mā rēs nīngjī chīmbū dō sō tāme dō pēyā yō rēs gōmbā dōchā lō sō bātī tāme dō pēyā yō mā rēs o dī ngā rāndzū gu tā pēchā nā rē sōngu yō rē samrō lī tēbi yī nē ngā zō chāngchū gu sēm dō tōngnī dī lā tāme dō pēyā gī ngā zō lī yō mā rē 디 간주 렌디 잡투 말아 가도 얘네 양당 간주 가르 잡투 그랬으나 착바다 콘도르도 간주 줄 탐에도 패도 패민도 디 간주 렌디 잡투 그러 봐 어디에 티버들이 간주 전주 셈다 디게지 시가 말했어 간주 쪼어디 아란주 규기 더 차당 콘도르도 간주 줄라 곰데요레 곰바요레 곰잡요레 곰데요레 이나양 탐에도 벨기도 우메도 세치다. 아, 도르드나 탐에도 베베 셀 세디 사모코고 와. 여기들이 다 튀어나마 바고야 돼. 다 저거랑서 지나로를 튀어든 고추나 찍니지 렌진nen션을 되고.
So I'll give you the summary of the question, and then if you can sort of amongst yourselves, maybe if you can clarify it further if you need to amongst yourselves. So this is so in terms of in terms of sort of attachment and anger, we have familiarized ourselves since beginningless time with attachment and anger and the kind of afflictive emotions or the negative emotions. So, and it's very easy for us. So we've cultivated them, we've familiarized ourselves with them, we've meditated on them since beginning this time. And there's a way that we can identify this. There's a sign that reveals this to us. And that is that, you know, it doesn't take much to provoke us in anger. For instance, we didn't sleep well, we weren't able to eat properly, or maybe when we go outside, we run into someone that really, on the very sight of them, sort of gets us hot under the collar, you know, gets our anger going. And so, you know, so small causes bringing out in us things like the afflictions such as anger and attachment is a sure sign that we're fully familiar with, and we've cultivated them, we're fully familiar with them, and we've meditated on them. But this doesn't this doesn't apply to things like bodhicitta, compassion, the good heart. But I will argue that in the future we can develop. So I will. That my sort of the question is to say that I don't think that, and according to Dharmakirti, it also says this in the text, and according to Dharmakirti, and I don't think that these afflictions can be cultivated limitlessly. But in the future, compassion, good qualities such as compassion, bodhicitta, the good heart, can become cultivated limitlessly, can be increased without limit. And we can see that in the future, from a small cause, let's say the small cause of seeing even a small amount of suffering in others, we're able to derive extremely strong compassion. So, so that the question is to do with whether things can be cultivated limitlessly, or increased or cultivate limitlessly, or not. And we can answer. So as I said, we can answer in our own minds the question of whether we have we already have the habituation and familiarity, and we cultivated anger and attachment. We don't need to. It says it in, you know, we don't need to. We don't need to just look in the text. We can see it in our own lives. So not thinking just in terms of not in terms of bodhicitta here, but let's say things like compassion. Can we cultivate? Is it true that anger and attachment, the negative emotions, cannot be increased or cultivated limitlessly? But it's true that compassion and the positive qualities can be cultivated and then increased limitlessly or not. So this is what you need to think about, whether this is true or not. This is the meaning of the question.
Choose one. So.
Rinpoche,
Okay.
May I ask you back, what is the reason if it is so? What is the argument that we can say it can be cultivated limitlessly?
So, do you want? My question to you is, you know, we wanted to become Buddha. We want to be fully awakened, right? Awakened, right?
Yes, fully awakened.
Fully enlightened. Okay, and then we need to have the compassion limitlessly, right? Limitlessly compassion.
Limitless compassion. Limitless compassion.
So, 그런 게 단다 지워디 가르치니 디고요르스 해드리베.
예, 무슨 디 케버이나 가서데 독촉이 드시던 컨트롤러 서버든 저기 탐에도 배워 매버다. 인질러 서버든 저기 탐에도 배워 여베이나 데 여베이나 디 덴베이나 아니 짐슨 카리 갭땡기 짐슨 카리에서
알레 갭땡기 짐슨 카리어스 소티고르베.
디 갭땡기 짐슨 디 여나 디 덴베이나 가르치는
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 오케이.
가르치는
가르치는 사나.
He's asking why would this be true?
Can you repeat the question once again?
Yes. My question is, if it is so that anger and attachment and the affliction cannot be cultivated to an unlimited amount, why is that? Why should it be like this? And if love and compassion and patience and wisdom can be cultivated limitless, why should that be like that? What is the reason, or what is the argument that it could be like that?
Ale, coba 가리어스 볼래.
짐슨 디 덴베이나 난스 도시던 공적이 참아도 메페 참아도 메페 메누바 아니 디 약초 야보든지 퀄리티 야보든지 디 compassion patience or something is 참아도 페오 인 뉴 톱나 누바 여나 이 짐슨 가르치네 디르다
Ale 가르치네 탐에도 배워요 그랬어. 가르치네 탐에도 배워요 그랬어.
탐에 가르치는 compassionate something 저기 탐에도 배워요. 셴벌 탐에도 배워. 뭔둑숨든지 탐에도 배우면 maybe 짐슨 가르래.
For that reason we need to know the definition. The definition of the limitless.
What it means to be unlimited, what it means to increase limitlessly or to be cultivated limitlessly.
Increase limitless. That we need to know.
Limitless. Yeah.
So unless we don't know that, we cannot answer anything. So now, for the reason why I'm asking this, so we are so expert already in the anger. Okay. So what is the good reason? Good reason that even if we have increased that, but it is not limitlessly increased.
Not limitless, yeah.
Limitlessly increased. So does that mean what you feel? Because I cannot make a decision here, because I'm asking you, because this is a discussion. So for that, nobody needs to make the decision here. So it's more like what do you think, right? So for that reason, if we have the anger which is limitlessly increased, then
can increase limitlessly.
If we have
if say for instance anger which can be increased,
which can be increased limitlessly, then how can ribatang ranzo shujin tapena kondo tamedo pelding mijina.
Yeah.
Ani kondo sasaba deding go your best that you.
So if you need to, if you say that anger can be increased limitlessly, do you need a sort of sasagi yule tame
midi kondo tamedo pelding mijinas kede yobina midi kantu chuju ni shitsapi tamashibodo kondo san deding go your best.
Do you have to cultivate it 24 hours a day until your death? Is that how we're talking about anger being cultivated limitlessly?
What do you think? We should think. When we talk about the Ningji Tamed Pay Your Seti, Ningji Tamed Pay Your Seti, Ani Ningji Chumbo Kejabdi Grese, Kijati Redrum, the Dingo Samtangu Yorba. I think Simon is now freezed because Megoganji is getting much colder. So now he's freezed. Okay. Anyway.
Rinpoche, is it because there is like a firm foundation for developing compassion and good qualities that these qualities can be developed limitlessly, but with the afflictions, there's no firm foundation for developing them?
That's a good question. What do you mean by firm foundation? Now this you have brought us something a big case here now. It's not easy now. So you talked about a foundation here and something firm foundation. So what do you mean? You are getting close there. Yeah.
I would ask you actually, what do you think a firm foundation is?
That's your answer. Anyway, it's a good guess. Chetanga, Simon, are you back? Oh yeah. Oh, I'm so happy now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I lost you.
Thank you so much. Chetanga, 금전디 tanda pecha naloli sungya di nyingji tamya di peyo yubi 금전디 la 아니 semgi yunden seya di la 아니 semgi rangshin we sewa seya di chikche. Okay, Simon. Oh yeah, irwa semgi rangshin.
I call that the line cut chair.
Okay.
Semgi ranging also with the Jumsen Digi.
we sewa di chikche.
Yeah.
Tene semdi tembure sechi.
Yeah. Semgorong.
Temburis. Tembu yinzang. Ane gomsim bezu charmal tuyuk marisi. Yo gomsana. Yo gom chego marisi. Tembu yinbi jumsindela. Ti yorba.
Semgorong.
Semgi rangshindi tembu yore sechi.
Yeah.
Rangshin we sewa se di nalola. Semgi rangshin we sewa se di chikche. We sewa yinzang dila kar de tuwa marisa kyungi cha de tuwa maris.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Ta wana kyungi cha de tuwa mina yuandingi cha de tuwa marwas.
Yeah.
Yuanding cha de ma tuwa maris. Yuanding cha de tuwa ris. Tanda chamba chumbegi lava na shin di karsa firm foundation se tirwa. Ko shi tembu yore se. Ta shi tembu re se de la ta nga zo samlo tang sa tirida. Now that we need to understand. Ta di nga zo yinji minji samlo tang go ta tembu yin da di. Ta di kena ngel chuk si juda.
Yeah. So in terms of talking about whether compassion can be cultivated or increased limitlessly, then this comes down to certain mental qualities, and that the first mental quality being that the mind has the clear light nature to it. The second one is that the mind is so the clear light nature means that faults are not able to abide with or penetrate to the nature of the mind. The mind is also stable, so it's stable so that some things what we cultivate once you've developed some familiarization with it, you don't need to continue to cultivate it. So these are natural qualities of the mind, but we say that the negative faults don't abide in the nature of the mind, but then we might ask, well, do the qualities, the positive qualities, the positive mental qualities, do they not also abide in the nature of the mind? And then this comes down to these two qualities of mind, and also what we talk about, so the mind as being a stable base for something. And this is the question that we're asking ourselves about here, talking about here.
제가 semgi rangshin di we sewa res. Rangshin we sewa yin zang 콜라 경기 차대기 말이스. 직접. 연den기 차 대토르스. 가전스나 아니 템포레스. 템포 차브레스. 다 템포세기 책들라 가두 유네 직게나 깨게베 되지. 인지 친구께나 가두 유네 추진이 섭시 인지 친구께 되게 좀 말. 네 인사 말이스. 그봐.
When we talk, so the clear nature of mind, we say that because the nature of the mind is clear, is clear light, then the negativity is not able to abide in that. But we say that the positive qualities are able to abide with the clear light nature of mind because the mind's base is stable. This is how it's said. So I don't think that when we talk about compassion, we mean that once you've initially developed compassion, then for 24 hours, forevermore, 24 hours a day, it's still there. I don't think that's what we mean by this.
제가 추진 20세 전에 인지 친구 요함해 봐. 전주 쌤 요함해 봐. 동료도 비시라 요함해 봐. 대등에 사제만 돼요 말 봐.
24 hours, a 24-hour day compassion, 24-hour day bodhicitta, 24-hour day wisdom of emptiness. There's only one person who has that, who's the Buddha.
Manifest 해들 봐. 뭔도 준 되냐데.
Yeah, manifest. Yeah, in manifest mind. Yeah.
So for that reason, I think it is very important to focus on not only the nature of the mind, also the firm foundation of the mind.
Yeah, firm foundation.
And this is very important. 제가 템템보레스 페델이야 베전하는 경우도 좀 템템보면 좀 전에 아니 출을 빼셔야지. 출 장모지에 거비나 아니 가져지 거셔비나 아니 가지 메시지 서비스로 코랑신 출 란자 장모차로 왔어.
So there's an example. So in terms of this firm foundation in the text, there's an example in Dharmakati's Pramanavartika, the compendium of compendium of Pramana. He gives an example. He shows this by example by saying that if you take water as an example, if you take cold water and then begin to heat it up, however much you heat it up, if you stop heating up the water, then the water will eventually cool again.
다 단단한 쪽이 닝질로 소바 드주디 아니 가지마 손에 타메드 페요리 세티 땡땡부 인자 타메드 페요리 시디 닝지기 그게 가수질레비나 તદી સમતાંગો 요다 닝지기 그게 가수질레비나 그 단도 닝지기 깨나 반로 되지마도 닝지 냠야 줄 주는 로마토지 뒤주 차르소나 땡땡부 인비 좀 세죠.
So this is my way of thinking about this. So in terms of the stable base, where we say that that the negative qualities don't have the base is not stable, but for the qualities such as compassion, they can be developed or increased limitlessly because they have a stable base. So for instance, however, the way I think about this is in terms of compassion is that however many obstacles arise in terms of us developing compassion, actually those obstacles can be taken as primary causes and conditions for us to further develop our compassion. So they don't have to be obstacles at all. So I think this is one of the reasons why compassion is said to have a stable, can develop limitlessly and can be said to have a stable foundational base.
제가 딜리아 동에 탕돌렘바 세 송고도가 그뒤네.
We talk here about taking on or taking up suffering or being able to bear suffering. That phrase is very important in Tibetan Dugna Tondalangwa. It's very important to be able to take on or bear suffering, and this is an important point in relation to this.
대념도 다 대화 도모 계절에 대화 침불 기지시는데 깨니 아니 청주 람도 줄바 하바도 먼저 로종 튼dimegi 단 잡았으니 리도 아니 로종 찌게 만나로라 고네 슈파도 깨니 청주 람도 줄주 짱짱인가.
So so that we could talk in general terms, but talking about in terms of that's in terms of the general vehicles, the the greater or lesser vehicles. But in terms of the greater vehicle, there's in the 7-point mind training, the mind training literature, the 7-point mind training, the 8-point, the 8 verses of mind training. There's this great stress on taking adverse conditions into the path, or taking up adverse conditions onto the path. So this is a very important part of the Mahayana kind of way of training.
So if you like 8 verses of Geshe Langri Thamba, if you like it, everybody says I like it. Now then the biggest question is, how do you use it? You like how it sounds or meaning? That's more important. If you go into meaning, then the meaning is the when we talk about meditation, then we talk about the clear light, the clarity of the mind, and then also the firm foundation of the mind. So for that reason, for the second, we need all the
We have to have the instructions on taking adverse conditions onto the path to complete enlightenment. The Demba say they Chidang Nanze compassion imji the Den Demba Yerba Shembala Den Demba Mebelagi Yerbe. That's do we talk about stable foundation in relation to both of them? That might help clarify.
Lo tundung rik tamjela den Demba Yore said ki shiur. Ningi jigu marwa, chanjusum jigu mar.
All minds. So I was asking whether, which I thought might help to clarify for people, whether is it just a stable basis for the positive qualities and no stable base for the negative qualities or not? So it said in the text that all minds which apprehend their objects in accord with the reality have a stable foundation or a firm foundation.
One of the most strongest, the form, the foundation, the tempo motion, the debatar to but motion go to Zambe, the Tony Tower the mena menem meta memories. There were Tony Tower teletene, and Demba Tasergire, Zumba jiorba, Zumba di ma cartures, the Zumba di carresana, Shambaka mare, any tang ranchole be Kasura Dungzing taking Sawata but Yonian di, Yomo than Yomo shabe Savere, Yomo car sabine, and to Saven Hadi, Saven de Kayala, any Dametoni, and Saven car research. Teredwa, Yomo Saven car research.
So one of the ways that we can think about this firm foundation, the clearest way we can think about this firm foundation in terms of, all minds in accord with the reality, having a firm foundation is in terms of emptiness. On the basis of investigating and analyzing emptiness, we can kind of clarify all the truth of the nature of things and clear away and destroy all kind of misapprehensions and false, and we can clarify, between what is true and what is false. For instance, first of all, we can get rid of the on the basis of understanding of emptiness. We can remove the kind of self, the self-grasping, and then even though we may remove the self-grasping, there still are the underlying imprints which are left over from that. But then again, on the basis of the wisdom of emptiness, we can also completely remove those imprints. So this is a kind of sense in which a good example of how the base is very stable. If we want to attune ourselves to what the stable base means, something like this will help us to understand it.
어디지? 다테네 비제 the digital demo watch. Now we should move on. That didn't much. So 15 more minutes, and then we stop here today.
Rinpoche, there were a few in the chat. There were a few people who suggested answers to your question. Do you want to maybe?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
That will be very interesting. Yeah.
So they said.
First one, it feels like at the Tushita very soon. What is this question?
That's not a question.
Okay.
What was it? The next one. I've lost it. Actually, can you see the questions, Rinpoche?
I can.
Yeah. Hang on.
Can our habitual habituations,
habituations, yeah.
Such as anger and compassion can create it limitlessly, right? Oh,
yeah.
In my opinion, yes. I think I have given the reason why. Okay.
Yeah.
Due to our Buddha nature, it cannot be washed away.
Yes, that's due to Buddha nature.
That the Buddha nature said we should really think about Buddha nature. Here, when we talk about Buddha nature, what are you really talking about? It's not like we have Buddha in here. It's not like that, right? The nature of the Buddha said we have to think very careful. Okay. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas create limitless compassion. It is okay, but it's not going directly to my answer, my question. Love and compassion is the nature of our mind, so it is limitless. But if it is a pure love and pure compassion, then yes. But our love and compassion is mixed with attachment, so still there is a question. Okay, then I think all people can see the questions, right? It's in the main chart. The limitless nature of our mind and love and compassion is increasing, but revealed?
It's increasing, but it's not increasing. It pelmendus in nunda megivisugi yone ani nunda gurnes ko dumbados chi dumbados che with it ko nyumane yobados che increasing chegmendus in ko nunda megivisu yobados and nunda gurnes
okay. The limitless nature of our mind and love and compassion is not increasing but revealed. The increase chigiyo mares.
Pechin nyoman yoba cater story injure nyoman yoba les in ninda megiwa dog she does and in ninda gures revealed
I need to debate with this. Just kidding. Okay, let's move on. It is a good way of thinking, but we can debate on that still. But as time is very limited now, so today is the in English in the Western they have like Christmas Eve, but today is the eve of Lama Tsongkhapa's what do we call it? The anniversary. So I have to do the celebration. So yeah, let's move on. Actually, this is a really good way to celebrate. But anyway, so far I don't see any reason for increase it limitless. Even though every very interesting point, try to think more with the forms way. With the form, I've heard this essentially for full enlightenment. That's why.
I'm not sure what that means, but I think they mean that because of limitless year peche yonzo ki janjo the tobala ne peche limitless the year story do yine na tada badu the jimsin the selwa tongi mendus.
Okay. Okay. Compassion as our nature or compassion in action. Ale odiya to compassion as our nature and compassion in action. If it is in our nature, and then if it can be manifest, then after that there is the inaction, right? So it's I think there is a relation of the cause and effect here. And thank you, Rinpoche is another question. Just kidding. Oh, just kidding. Should we able to analyze according to the increase of small causes or extremes of result due to the habituation? Habituation
because of gomshi.
How do you, Simon, help me with this?
Should be able to go. Nanzu digi Jun Chun Chun dance. I should be able to analyze. Should Nanzu di ne digi dache chela dache chela. Ani Nanzu gi Jun Chun Chun ninzugi power down because of extreme results due to Jun Chun Chun the power dance. Ani Jun Chun Chun is the Jabudiki Jun Chun Chun to drive or Tam Kasade. Extremes of results due to habituation. Nanzu gomshi le denis. Nanzu di ne digi dashi chebi na sawo shingi mendusi ne ne di dashi chebi na nanzu gomshi gi tola kombe tola ani nanzu increase of small causes. Junshu's the power or because of extremes of results. Peche Gun Chunshun's be and Chembu be Gun Chunshun a job Chembugi.
Odiri. Chizanga never chung, nada del lenjavan machine. Never chungula, certain machina, never chimbola, certain chetu maris. Chizang chunjung gane, never chunjuna. Dunging never chunjung tong bicabla, telealamsan, certain temporis. Certain matena, and never chimbuji level cabla, on the certain tempo maris. Chizanga, chung to the tail lamsan telea, KO maris. Chung the digital gauge and in the mess. Mabe Ninjung dang, and a chanjuk similar comican. Lavato, and it's jiggy call it tarbuduani. The Dungi sum di nanone, Dungi tamadelia, and Donin chicken is Jiggy Samlo di leg burwa. Chazan tang azuma tanda jiggy dead jiggy chawalamdo mayon to it, Samba Maji with cha, jiggy sem narola namdoda, Mendasachi, and Langbatama Kaju Maris, the Labja Dilidwa. Kajan Dungela Tangne Machina Tangle Machabina, Dungela Chiden Javina, Dungi Maris.
So we have to think, in terms of the practical way to think about this is in the sense that, if we're going to get really upset by, somebody just saying something to us, a small kind of cause, something which is not a tremendously large harm, something that doesn't really greatly harm us, and we're going to get really upset about that, then what's going to happen to us when much greater harms befall us? And so also it's important to also phrase this kind of way of thinking in relation to the different kinds of the three different ways of being able to cultivate patience. And we should think like, in terms of the in terms of sort of great results such as developing renunciation, achieving liberation, developing the completely enlightened state, then we should this is something that we should be able to these are things that we should focus on being able to take on or undertake the bear the take on and undertake the sufferings for these kind of results. So we have to sort of always be looking at so we should really be able to just say to ourselves, when there's sometimes there are always going to be small complications and obstacles along the way, but if we're not able to abide those and we're not able to take up those and take those, then we'll be in much greater when something really serious happens. So looking at the size of the harm and the complications that come to us, and also the result that we are thinking about, these are important ways to frame that situation.
So here my friend and Alex Brozin, he give me one tip. He always say that I have to say to the foreigners that don't make a scene out of it. So it's okay if this is a problem, yes, problem, but why should I cry about it? Okay, what done is done. What we can be repaired, we can repair it. So why whole day being sad and complain about it? So he said, don't make sin out of it. So this is a kind of a good mantra actually. So so now we stop here today. So only one.
Maybe a half.
Oh my goodness.
No, we did one.
Oh my goodness. But tomorrow is the main one. Tomorrow His Holiness is going to give the teaching on the dependent arising.
Yeah.
The praise.
Lumsum Namsum.
No. The Shantideva.
Shantideva. Praise the dependent origination.
Oh, dependent origination. Now I want you to keep that in your mind when His Holiness will explain about emptiness and the dependent origination, or then also remember what we talked about today. We have to think about the anger. Here, the most people who don't like is anger, right? So when we feel the anger, we have to always think that it is not our mind, because our mind, nature of the mind is clear. So that the negative mind, anger, cannot be increased limitlessly. One point. Second point, it cannot be increased. Second reason is because it
doesn't have a firm foundation.
For now, the second one, His Holiness will talk about the truth, about emptiness, about the reality. And the time to time, he always say that's one unique way of His Holiness giving the teaching. He says, "Chakpatang nyomo dangzin la ane gyabden tsema yo mares."
Says that the afflictive emotions such as anger and attachment, the afflictions, that are based in self-grasping, but because there's no supportive there's no supportive validity to the afflictive emotions such as anger and attachment, and the self-grasping underpinning that.
So please be alert on when he talks about that. You have to wait for this signal of His Holiness. If you are the true student of His Holiness. Just kidding. Be on a full alert on this. So then no wonder the tomorrow day will be very auspicious for all of us. Okay. Di yorbe. Ngomalam diongo worbe kare.
Yeah, it's whatever you desire, Rinpoche.
Okay, we do that because you all people made that in English available. So let's do it. So Chapala, you want to start the English?
Sure. Rinpoche.
Okay.
So in the Stenshop Serkong Rinpoche WhatsApp group, there's the dedication prayers. And the first one, having thoroughly investigated in accord with all that I've heard, day and night, through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics of contemplation, may this discernment sever all doubts. Then the long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri who knows reality, and just like Samandabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all the gone beyond victorious ones of the three times in order to have good conduct. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. So think a little bit about the Karsakure. Karsa Kari increase.
Whether increasing limitlessly.
Okay. Why is this important or not? Don't believe that I said this is important and then you don't have to feel, oh, it's important. You have to thoroughly investigate why it's important. And we should be very happy when we say, yes, we are fully occupied by the diluted mind. And then anger is with us every time. But we should be very happy. This is such a very good news for us. Feel like even it is never been anger and the attachment and then ignorance mind have been never been separated from us from the beginningless. But still, it hasn't increased limitlessly. Then we should always be like, wow. Now, why is not even though it has occupied such all these times, but now why didn't it got this opportunity for this negative reflections? Now, if I can hold the opportunity to the mind, the virtuous mind, or the positive mind, why we call it positive, so then the like a compassion. So we can be developed or limitlessly increased it. And then the question is, it is not saying that 24/7 there will be a manifest of the compassion. No, we are not saying this. I just give you my opinion, saying that limitlessly increase means whenever you get the opportunity to become angry, okay, bring a reason through a Bodhisattva, he will take this opportunity to develop compassion. For us, we use this reason to become upset. So now here it differentiates between Arya and the ordinary beings. So please think, and if it doesn't make any sense, give me the reason. I will give you my address and you can look for me. Just kidding. Okay, so take care, stay safe, and be ready for tomorrow, the great day. Okay, wishing you the very good day tomorrow with His Holiness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.